So, hey guys, Chauzu here. So this is going to be the first ever tier list I make for One Piece Treasure Cruise. I've been reluctant to make any so far, mainly because I think that generalized tier list, which is the popular ones where you just rank units' usefulness across all parts of the game, doesn't really mean anything. We have, to use the most extreme example, we have a unit like Super Fast Robin, who is only really good at one thing. But what that one thing, like some could argue that makes her the best lead in the game, and some can argue that it makes her incredibly niche and doesn't have any use except for that. And both are pretty legit opinions, I'd say. So that's why in this, when I make tier list, I'll hone in on one specific thing. Probably just going to be different game modes, and it doesn't have to be all the game mode. Like in this case, we're doing just a super boss tier list. Yeah, I'm going to basically keep it hidden as I go on. This is mostly just to keep the focus intact, and yeah, I know that people can only see what I want them to see. But of course, if all you care is to see the end result of the tier list, you can just go to the end of the video, like if you want to do that. But I'll try and give as much context as I can, and we'll see how long I talk. I might not talk that much about everything, but at least the top stuff I'll spend a bit of time on. Okay, but let's reveal the categories. So, usually tier list you have like S tier, A tier, like something like that. I don't think that says anything at all. So I decided to make it like this. Basically, this tier list focuses on unique stuff that only a select few units can do. So we're not going to like put the best attack booster or booster, call affinity booster. Everybody knows you need those buffs. This is just to highlight other stuff you need to really increase your damage, since Suboski is really about stacking as many buffs as you can do. The numbers obviously matter, but the most important thing is how many buffs you can stack. So we're going to start with the first one, which is going to be some other options, basically miscellaneous. They deserve a mention, but I'm not going to talk too much about them. We have some delayers that can go through full immunity. On this list, for example, we have all the different katakuri, have different ways of bypassing full immunity for delay. Legend Usopp as well. Kuja Pirates, they're actually pretty viable, especially as a beginner with not many options. Especially to combine with Super Fast Robin, of course, to get multiple conditionals. We also have the V1 Shirahoshi, which can delay through full immunity now with level limit break. I also put some one orb manips, that's mainly all the Hiyori units, including Komurasaki, that can do Wano. Wano is obviously important, but there are other ways to get Wano orbs, mainly all the different Yamato units. We also have some increased damage taken, like Kaido, the Treasure Map Big Mom, V1 Law with level limit break, Anal, Hawkins, those all are options for increased damage taken. But of course there are other better options than them, but deserves a mention anyway. Finally, we have some Super Tandem units like the free-to-play Luffy, the Sengoku, I think that's mainly them. And they didn't fit in any of the tiers above. Like Sengoku, for example, he's a super type, of course, but don't really see him being very much viable. I might change my mind on that. I've been thinking of trying him as more of an accessible captain, since you can realistically max his super tandem and he can give pretty good buffs. But for now, I'll keep him in niche options until I try him myself. So with that, we're moving on to the next step. We're going to just do all of the super stuff. So I divided this into 3 parts: super class, super type captain swaps, and just general super type captains. So basically, these are just valuable to have, especially super type. Super class is not as important, but of course optimal you combine super class with super type. Even cooler is if you can combine 2 superclass with 1 supertype, which is what the supertype captain swap is all about. With that, you have the potential to get 3 in total. Or if you run a unit like, for example, versus Yamato as captain to resist the spear, whatever, you can still potentially get a supertype with one of the captain swap supertypes. We're getting more and more of them, so I hope they continue to do that. Sadly, most of them are pretty flawed right now. I actually think the best of these is the new Garp we're getting. He's seriously really good. And he can see some legit use if you lack stuff, since he has a very easy super tandem condition for extra damage, and has a very easy way to get into captain, give a super type, and then go back to the crew. So he's really cool. It's just a shame his Sai, since Sai already has so many good super type units. But alas, the Admiral also really good on paper in terms of captain swaps, but there's not many viable admirals, and you need at least 1 other admiral so you can move back, which you really want to do after you activate the super type. Not many superclass captains mentioned, because I think most of them are pretty good, viable, or strong in general. So you can say that the ones listed here, these 5 are like the weakest superclass captains in general. Dog has some potential. Doffy as well, maybe. Brook. Except for that, I don't think it's worth mentioning the others much, to be honest. Super type, there's quite a lot of them, and super type is pretty important. It both adds more damage than superclass, again same color, but also if enemy has super type, you want to counter with your own super type, so it's always worth it to try and fit 1 super type if you can on a team. So it's like if you take V1 Kid, for example, wouldn't really recommend using him, but as you build a team and you need to add those attack boost or boost and whatever, you need a super type. A unit like him can be good. Same goes for Manny here. One thing worth mentioning are units that should be higher. I already mentioned notice one that really should be in the higher categories, which is the treasure map Koala. I disagree with myself there, but you have to remember, first tier list, there will be mistakes, and the idea is that I update it for the future. Other units that could be higher is of course the 6+ quick Luffy. Really good, but I'm not truly sold on him yet. Like, quick already has a very established unit type for the super boss, and that's mostly focused on cerebral. Luffy is not cerebral, so you end up missing out on that extra superclass damage. But yeah, lots of good options here if needed. So with that, moving on to the next category, which is going to be stackable chain buffs. And the main one you want, of course, is chain boundary. So I just listed every chain boundary in the game. And of course, if one unit you know has chain boundary isn't listed here, it's because they are listed above. So it's not like I put every unit in chain boundary. It's just that I didn't want to do repeats, but it's basically, okay, I built a team. What do I lack? Oh, I lack a chain boundary. What can I use? And you got some examples here. I do want to know that some of these have a low cap at the chain boundary, so you can maybe not go above 6 times chain, so 8 times chain. 2 I know off the top of my head is the level limit break Legend Garp, as well as the free-to-play Kisuna Shanks. They both cap out pretty early, so in general should not be used against Super Boss. But in the end, better than a chain lock, like chain lock, for example. Like, biggest right now is like 4 times from Tesoro. And like Garp, even with his cap, you can get to 6 times chain, so that's a massive increase in damage. But yeah, a lot of these are very useful. Like, for example, when I was looking at teams for Super Boss this time around, I looked at that Buggy, for example. I didn't end up using him, but any chain boundary is worth having since you can stack more and more chain buffs. I've not added a category for chain boost, for example, mainly because there are so many units, and I hope people understand that if you go the chain boundary route, you want to add a chain boost along with that at least, as well as other stackable buffs. We have two main stackable buffs, apart from chain boundary and chain boost, which is the chain multiplier boost, which was mainly swaps before, like with Rebecca and Sanjay, as you see in the picture. Some super type or super class specials as well, like V2 Odin, Yamato Legend, they also do that. And then we have the new buff, which is a chain growth increase, which is similar to what Sugar did. Sugar might be listed here, but in general, you should not use Sugar in Super Boss, mainly because you can't get Super Tandem with Sugar unless you leave some units not being toyed. But that kind of defeats the point of Sugar as well, I think. So might be an option. In general, you want other options to get that chain growth increase. One unit we can do that here is that free-to-play Yamato next to Sugar. Another one is that Kid and Law in the chain boundary. They do both, so that's a very cool, accessible option for that. Other than that, we have like Super Tandem Law, for example. There are a few more. But yeah, some other notable units. V2 Sanji. He actually has the same buff as Kid Luffy. So they kind of compete for the same spot, but obviously Sanji is a bit less easy to run since he focuses on fighters, and right now fighter is the undeniably worst class in the game, just how it is. But yeah, Kid Luffy could potentially be higher. I'm just not sold on him yet, like not as a captain and such, but definitely a viable option for sub to mainly get that chain multiplier boost along with other goodies. But with that, we're getting into the meat of the tier list. We're going to start with the viable category. And the viable category is basically units that pair up pretty well with the strong units. And also, if you happen to lack some of the good strong units, you can instead focus on the viable units. If we take a good example, we have a legend like Ulti, Summer Ulti. Pretty slapped on legend, basically doesn't see any use, but Summer Ulti is actually very solid with a pretty unique set of buffs. Like Ulti has the marked mechanic, which bypasses full immunity, so that's a potentially stackable buff. She also has that increased growth rate, which is incredibly rare, and Ulti also has that base attack boost, so very unique buffs in one unit. So that also means that Ulti pairs very well with Super Tandem Kaido, which we'll obviously get to later. Main problem there is that they're really trying to shut down Kaido, so you rarely get the option to use them lately. I can't remember the last time Strength, Strike, or Powerhouse was boosted. It's pretty insane, actually. It's like the V2 Doffy days when they try to really shut him down. But yeah, Ulti has a very good potential. We can go the viable versus any color. So these are basically units that can fit against any color because they have some unique attributes. K-Dad, for example, has the Luffy crew mechanic with the final tap. Main issue with him is that you basically need a mono slasher team or close to it, which can be possible to build theoretically. But yeah, so basically their problem is you want a lot of slashers, not the color you need. So they could potentially fit into, say, Psy, potentially, if you do like Roger Whitebeard or V1 Roger or V2 Odin, like a lot of good options for Psy slashers. We have both two laws there. First, Super Type Law. I think Final Tap Law is better, the next one. And he's mainly here for that increased damage taken through full immunity, always useful. And that can be useful against any color. And it's obviously also a pretty good options for decks in general, even today. Super Tandem Law, potentially candidate for being strong. He's mainly not strong because I feel like there are better Super Tandem options. But I built teams for the coming Super Boss using Law where I feel he's pretty optimal. So he's a pretty good candidate for going up, I feel. But unique buff in chain growth rate increase, easy access to Super Tandem with popular unit like Luffy mainly. So yeah, very cool option. Main negative with him is that superclass Cerebral. If it was Free Spirit, he would be a lot better. Bon Clay, you know what he does? He's fallen off a bit, but still easy extra damage. You can suit him to whatever you need. Very popular together with Ulti Page 1 and stuff back in the day to get the right classes. So he's mainly good, I'd say, when you lack a lot of stuff. He can give you pretty good budget teams. Perona, basically budget Robin. Like if you don't have Robin, you should probably run Perona most of the time. Can even buff like Chain Boundary boost, which is nice, and give a conditional through full immunity. Main negative with Perona is that she can't stack with Robin, because both do a death down conditional, which is a shame. Otherwise, Perona will still be pretty amazing, and I put her in the strong tier if that was the case. Rudder Whitebeard also candidate for being strong. It's like 50-50 for me. Next time I make this, they might be put in strong, but I mainly feel like the last few Super Boss casinos have fit them pretty well, but they have very good options to good common buffs and pretty good final tap. So basically they are good for reasons I don't really consider primarily in this tier list, being very good to give high attack or orb and color affinity buffs with a final tap. So definitely very viable. I feel like my conditions for this tier list kind of skews them lower than they should be. So yeah, we'll see for next time I make this. I'll probably reconsider. Viable are mainly really strong captains. Viable is the same color that you should really consider when you make teams. So if you have Dex boss, you would consider Who's Who. If you're facing a quick boss, you have Crocodile and so on. See, there's only one strength and one quick unit here. But that's mainly because strength and quick have a lot of units about that are really good. So yeah, let's see if there's anything special to mention here, something that could go higher up. I actually think if V3 category it is, gets 6+, I think he actually might go up to strong. He's already a pretty decent candidate considering he ignores full immunity and such. Just a shame he doesn't really pair with Super Sugar Robin, but you could just run him as Fang Captain and another unit as Captain, for example. We can also talk a bit about the Sai Jinbei. Actually, I think he's pretty slapped on. With the new Ace releasing, I feel like Jinbei might see some play. I'll try fitting him into the current Super Boss, and I think it could be pretty good, if not for the fact that we're getting so many debuffs for this particular one. We can talk a bit about Who's Who, Sasaki and Black Maria, because they are pretty interesting. Sadly, they are basically never boosted, but their Super Talent is pretty easy to max and is very strong. And they have good buffs that synergize as well. So in theory, they can be a very solid core for basically any strength dex quick Super Boss. And of course, you can viably pair them with the superior Kaido as well. And also as synergy with ulti. So you can make a lot of very fun teams using them if they ever boosted their classes. Like, they never boost the Kaido classes, so. But as mentioned here, like Crocodile, Chain Boundary, pretty good captain. One of the highest chain boundaries in the game. Good attack boost for Color and Cerebral. It's pretty interesting. Whitebeard has amazing synergy with versus Yamato, which is the main reason he's here. That's like one of the ultimate dex combos, it feels like. Sora Sanji, pretty good captain, giving color affinity, increased damage taken, like just solid unit in general. Roger could maybe be higher, but I don't feel like he carries Sai or such. He's just another good option among others. Like for super type, like Yamato is superior in general. Sub is also pretty decent, can also be a captain, but usually he's a sub, but always worth considering running. And Int also has Kaido here and Blackbeard. Blackbeard is often used as sub. I don't think he's as good as captain. And Kaido is basically a meme, but if you do lack a lot of stuff, that's a pretty good meme for Super Boss, against a Sai Super Boss in particular. So 20 minutes and we're going into the strong tier, so I guess the video will go on a bit more. But yeah, strong versus any color and strong versus same color. And there's probably going to be some things you disagree with. I think we start with same color and work ourselves up. So in strong insane we have Kisna Legend X Drake. Is basically the perfect partner for Kaido, since X Drake does the super type, Kaido does the super class, X Drake does the attack boost, Kaido does the ore boost. Like against decks, that's like the dream team if you can viably run them. The wives, the Oiran trio, is also pretty good fit with Kaido, another potential option. Does a lot of damage with their final tap. One of the best color affinity boosters. Like, I'm considering running them too, this particular super boss against decks. Definitely a very good unit to have maxed. Perospero, a bit weird since it's mainly a class captain, but as we talked before with Whitebeard, like the best decks right now is striker focused. Perospero is very much that. I don't see him being as good for other colors, so I mainly put him in the strong versus same color. You have some very cool things going there with Whitebeard, Perospero, and versus Yamato for sure. Then we have the whole quick trio here with Shanks, Uta, and Sabo. Shanks could potentially be put in the strong versus any color. Like if this super boss didn't have super type, I probably bump Shanks up. But now it's still a bit random if you can use him versus any super boss or not. We have to see if there's any trends to this or such. But of course, he's really strong against Quick. Ironically, he's got a lot of competition now for Quick, mainly through the new Ace. I've actually made a team for the new super boss without using Shanks, and I actually feel a bit copium about that, since I maxed my Shanks thinking he was a very safe super boss investment. And it's been like half a year, and I'm already not running him against strength super boss. Like, it's just dumb, but yeah. Might just be for this particular super boss, we'll see in the future. Uta, also not only quick, but it just ends up being quick. Just a very solid core with Shanks, Robin, a chain boundary unit, probably Sabo now instead of Flakaroo and Ben Beckman of the past. Usopp Yasop, like that core together, those 5 units, just does so much damage. And then you have a flex spot for like adding increased damage take, and versus Yamato for the damage reduction, and it's sort of for chain buffs or such. So yeah, very strong trio in general, and Sabo adds to that. Sabo also synergizes very well with the Ace, of course. I was also kind of considering Sabo a bit higher, but I need that proven to myself. But yeah, Sabo is one of the reasons why Shanks lost a bit of relevance, since Sabo and Ace combo basically does what Shanks does, as long as they both are captains. And suddenly when you do that, why do you even run Shanks? Like, there's no reason to run him. You can fit other stuff. So a bit interesting from that aspect. And obviously this super boss is very tailored for Sabo, so we'll see how I feel in the future when using him. As for Sai, like Odin, I slept on him a lot on release, but he's proven to be very useful. And he has a lot of fascinating potential. First as captain, being a super class, it has some extra damage. Adding the Shea multiplier boost. His special does a big color affinity, also has the option of giving an attack boost. And also has the option of giving a 95% damage reduction, which you can pair with versus Yamato. You might have heard me mention versus Yamato a bit, but yeah, spoiler alert, like versus Yamato and Robin are the 2 most relevant units for Super Boss. Yamato, still really good. Amazing final tap, not amazing, but very good kit in general. Like, you get the Wano Orbs, you get a big chain boost, potential for chain multiplier boost. Did I mention Wano Orbs? I think so. But yeah, just a very good kit in general, synergizes with a lot of different teams, mainly versus Sai, of course. Thin Red Luffy has caught on a bit with the decline of Luffy Crew. And he's really good. Optimally, his captain can be hard to fit sometimes, but he can just add a lot of good buffs. Super type is a bit worthless for most Kizuna, but you do get the super type, so that's something. And yeah, it's just a bit he's a fascinating unit, but I do feel like having him in strong and Rogi Viper not is pretty silly when they are pretty similar, I feel like. But for this month, what's done is done. And a lot of int here. It's a bit weird because int are basically you take two different routes. Either you go a striker route with like Yamato and Kid, and maybe Uta, or maybe you go a powerhouse driven route with like Big Mom and Uta and some other units mentioned before like Blackbeard and such, and some units above like Ulti Page 1 and such. And I do feel like int is lacking a bit. Like, it's pretty easy to make a good int Superboss team, but it's pretty hard to make an amazing int Superboss team. But at least it's fun to try. You have a lot of options. I not tried Big Mom a lot, but I have at Super Tandem level 4 now, so for the next time we get one, I should be able to try her as well. 6+ Uta is a bit wonky to use, of course, but it is what it is. Dot music, I mean, of course. And yeah, I don't feel like I have a lot to say about these, and I'm getting a bit tired of talking. So let's go into the strong versus Annie color. And yeah, let's start with some of the weak ones, I guess, that might be disputable. We can start with Ulti Page 1. And like on paper, they're still really good. Like they also do the marked true full immunity. They do the chain boundary, which you want on any team. So they still have their strengths, and they're pretty easy to fit as long as the units that they are good with are boosted, but those classes are rarely boosted. So I still feel they deserve to be here, but I can definitely see them dropping to viable. Another one that people might question is Luffy Crew, but I still feel like they are interesting. They're also a very interesting option as friend captain, since in the end they do add another stackable buff. So getting that might be worth using them as friend captain. It's just that they don't really offer anything except that. But I still feel like they deserve to be up here. Another one people might question is Yamato Ace, but I feel like I use them all the time against Super Balls, and they have a immunity piercing swap and special, chain boundary, very good attack boost, basically a better version of Ulti and Page 1, I'd say. Other than that, I think that there's nobody else to question here. Maybe Toki, some feel is weird, but Toki keeps proving that she is very much strong versus any color. Like, you just build around doing a lot of damage with 2 units, and as long as you stack enough, that's going to be enough. And they also have options of ignoring debuffs and such, which is very valuable. Usopp Yasop, really good, especially thanks to Robin. You can really combine them together. Optimally use Usopp Yasop versus on quick or side teams, but yeah, just the combination itself, they also give base attack boost, resistance and such. They could potentially be on other colors as well, so I definitely think they deserve to be here. Ace is a bit weird, I guess, since he's mainly quick and side teams, but I guess that's 2 colors. But I really put him here because I feel like people sleep on Ace. They think like, we have Nami, why would we ever use Ace? But I feel like they are basically very close in viability. Like, Shane's unique buffs can't be underestimated, and he has a very easily to activate super tandem, and you just so easily get about 10 times Shane, which is very important for this super boss, but I'd say it's always good in general. And Nami does require to use 3 particular units. Ace is just 2 maxed, but Nami, of course, is incredibly strong. Like, the combination of Nami, Robin versus Yamato in general is really strong. Can throw Annie versus Sora in there too. But yeah, we can talk a bit about versus Yamato and Robin because I feel like they are the most important ones. Robin, of course, because she basically is the new Luffy crew, unlocks another level of extra damage. Basically, maybe to use 2 conditional buffs is just too strong, it's broken. Versus Yamato basically has another stackable buff on top of that in the damage reduction attack boost. And she can activate it herself with her super versus special or with Mr. Tree support or such. So it's just 3 extra damage, and she also has 1 Orban Nip, which is nice. Tandem Orban Nip as well, which is nice for super type. And she also has a very good attack boost. And the versus sword is basically like the final unit you put on a team sort of stuff. Like, I need to increase my damage more. What do I need? Oh, I just have a chain boost and a chain boundary. I need more chain buffs. Yeah, sword handles all of them. That's basically it. Nothing else more to say, really. He can even provide the chain boost himself with kosher support, so he's truly invaluable in a lot of teams. Luffy, just one of the strongest super tandem units if you, for some reason, don't want to use, say, Nami on a team, when she's not a good option. And yeah, you can basically make him work against anything. Like Free Spirit is like the best class, so can make that versus a lot of different colors. Talk a bit about Kaido before. He's still really strong, it's just that we haven't been able to use him forever, so hard to say anything more about him. I hope we'll be able to use him again soon enough. But yeah, I can barely talk anymore. I rarely do long videos like this, but I hope this is helpful. I'm happy to take feedback. I'm going to take that into account. And in maybe 4 months or such, I'll revise this with the new units and my new opinions. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.